Captain's Log, Expedition Cycle 842, Rotation 56. The galactic survey vessel Boundless Curiosity continues its mission through the uncharted regions of Sector 9 Gamma, and nothing particularly noteworthy to report, apart from Lieutenant Vasix losing another set of tentacle sheets in the waste recycler. That makes 3 this quarter. I'm beginning to suspect it's not actually an accident. Captain Norala clicked off the recorder, inside her 4 primary eyes blinking in sequential order, a nervous habit she'd never managed to break. The bridge of the Boundless Curiosity hummed with the quiet efficiency typical of a Chavian exploration vessel. Various crew members tapped at consoles, adjusted scanners, or simply stared out at the endless void, looking just as bored as she felt. "Anything interesting on the long-range scanners, Kelpo?" she asked, not really expecting much of an answer. Lieutenant Kelpo Voss swiveled around in his chair, 6 appendages continuing to type even as he faced his captain. "Nothing but space rocks and cosmic dust, Captain. The same as yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that, and the—" "Yes, thank you for the comprehensive report." Norala cut him off. "Any word from Central Command about when we can wrap up this thrilling expedition?" "Last transmission said another 60 rotations minimum," replied Communications Officer Plex. "Apparently they are very interested in the gravitational anomalies in this sector." "Gravitational anomalies," Norala muttered. "More like budget allocation anomalies." They couldn't find anything worth exploring in this sector with a quantum microscope and a prayer to the 7 moons. The bridge crew chuckled. Captain Thrick wasn't known for her patience with bureaucratic busy work, and this mission definitely qualified. The Boundless Curiosity was a top-of-the-line survey vessel. It equipped with the finest sensors and staffed by some of the most qualified scientific minds in the Jevorian Confederacy. And here they were, counting asteroids in the galactic equivalent of a backwater swamp. Discovery of the human vessel. Captain. Science Officer Zuri Tonic's voice cut through the monotony like a plasma cutter through butter. "I'm picking up something on the subspace frequency scanners." Norala's antenna perked up with interest. "Natural phenomenon?" "Negative. It's definitely artificial. Some kind of beacon, I think. Very old. Signal's degraded, but it's there." Now this was interesting. The Jevorian Confederacy had explored much of this galactic arm, but there were still vast regions unmapped and unexplored. Finding evidence of another spacefaring civilization that could turn this mind-numbing expedition into something actually worth the fuel they were burning.
"Can you pinpoint the source?" Norala asked, trying to keep the excitement from her voice. Captains were supposed to be stoic after all. "Working on it," Zuri replied, her slender fingers dancing across her console. "It's coming from that direction." She pointed to the starboard view screen. "About 2 light hours away." "Helm, set course," Norala ordered immediately. "Maximum sustainable speed." "Aye, Captain," responded the helmsman, already inputting the coordinates. Norala settled back in her command chair, a smile playing at the corners of her mandibles. Finally, something interesting. And if this turned out to be first contact with a new species, well, that was the kind of discovery that made careers. Not to mention it would shut up those smug bureaucrats back at Central Command, who'd assigned them to this stellar garbage dump. "Captain," Zuri called out again. "I'm getting some more data from the signal. It's using a compression algorithm I have never seen before, but parts of it are decipherable. It appears to be some kind of distress beacon." Well, that put a dampener on things. "How old?" "No, based on signal degradation. At least 300 cycles, maybe more. 300 cycles. Whoever had sent that signal was long dead then. Still, the technology itself could be valuable, and the Confederacy had strict protocols about investigating distress signals regardless of age." "Maintain course," Norala ordered, "and Zuri, keep working on that signal. I want to know everything about it by the time we arrive." As the boundless curiosity accelerated toward the source of the mysterious beacon, Norala couldn't help but feel a tingle of apprehension. 300 cycles was a long time, but not long enough for a ship to have decayed completely in the vacuum of space. Whatever they found at the source of that signal would likely be largely intact, and that meant they might finally get some answers about who else was out here among the stars. "Captain to the bridge! Captain to the bridge!" Norala shot up from her rest pod, limbs flailing as she tried to orient herself. The urgent voice of Officer Plex continued to blare from the comm system. "What is it?" she demanded, already pulling on her uniform as she spoke. "We have arrived at the signal source, Captain. You need to see this." The urgency in Plex's voice had Norala moving faster than she had in years. She practically sprinted through the corridors of the boundless curiosity, ignoring the startled looks from off-duty crew members. When the bridge doors slid open, she immediately understood why she'd been summoned. There, floating in the vast emptiness of space, was a ship unlike any she had ever seen. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the boundless curiosity, and its design was completely alien to anything in the Confederacy's database. The hull was a dull grey, interrupted by strange markings and what appeared to be massive weapon emplacements. But what was most striking was its shape. Unlike the smooth, organic lines of Jevorian vessels, this ship was all hard angles and jutting protrusions, like some kind of predatory creature frozen in metal. "What in the 7 moons is that?" Norala whispered, her eyes wide. "Unknown, Captain," replied Zuri, not taking her eyes off her scanner readouts. "The design doesn't match anything in our database, but the energy signature, it's..." Exploring the abandoned ship, incredibly advanced, or at least it was. The ship appears to be in some kind of dormant state, minimal power readings, life support systems offline, and there's something else. What? The material composition of the hull. It's not something we have encountered before, some kind of composite alloy that our scanners can't fully analyze. Norala moved closer to the view screen, studying the mysterious vessel. "Any life signs?" "None that we can detect," Zuri replied. "But with all the interference from that hull material, I can't be completely certain." A heavy silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. They had discovered not just evidence of another spacefaring species, but an actual ship, preserved in the void of space for at least 3 centuries. The scientific value alone was incalculable, not to mention the potential technological advancements if they could learn the secrets of that hull material. "Prepare a boarding party," Norala decided. "Full hazard protocols. I want a complete sweep of that vessel." "Captain," interjected Security Chief Bront Mavix, his thick voice rumbling with concern. "The protocol dictates that we should report this finding to Central Command before taking any action." Norala turned to fix the burly security chief with all 4 of her eyes. "And how long would it take to get a response back, Chief Mavix?" 2 weeks? 3? Meanwhile, that ship could drift into a gravity well, or be discovered by pirates, or simply continue to degrade. We are going to secure it now. We will send a full report to Central Command along with our preliminary findings." Bront didn't look happy, but he nodded his acquiescence. "I will assemble the boarding team. Maximum security precautions." "Good," Norala replied. "I will be leading the team personally." That got everyone's attention. It wasn't standard procedure for a ship's captain to join a potentially dangerous boarding mission. But then again, nothing about this situation was standard. "With all due respect, Captain," Bront began, but Norala cut him off with a wave of her upper appendage. "This is a historic discovery, Chief Mavix. I intend to be part of it. Besides, I have been sitting on this bridge, counting space rocks for far too long. A little excitement will do me good. And with that, the matter was settled. Within an hour, a team of 6 was assembled in the shuttle bay. Captain Norala, Security Chief Bront, Science Officer Zuri, Engineer Treek Dawn, Medic Jazalis, and Security Officer Vex Rolu. All were equipped with the latest in environmental suits, scanning equipment, and, in the case of Bront and Vex, standard-issue pulse rifles. As they boarded the shuttle, Norala couldn't help but feel a flutter of both excitement and trepidation in her thoracic cavity. They were about to be the first beings in 3 centuries to set foot on that mysterious vessel. What would they find? Technological marvels? Cultural artifacts? Or something more sinister? "All systems check, Captain," announced Trolley from the pilot's seat. "Ready for departure." "Proceed," Norala ordered. Settling into her own seat and securing the harness, the shuttle bay doors slid open, revealing the vast emptiness of space and beyond it, the looming presence of the alien vessel. But as they drew closer, the scale of the ship became even more apparent. It was truly massive, dwarfing their shuttle like a predator looming over its prey. "I'm detecting what appears to be a docking bay," Triek reported. "Sealed, but there's residual power. I might be able to trigger the opening mechanism." "Do it," Norala commanded. Treek sent a series of signals toward the alien ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a section of the hull began to retract, revealing a cavernous space within. "Well, that was easier than expected," muttered Bront, his grip tightening on his pulse rifle. "Maybe too easy," Vex added, his nervous energy palpable. "What kind of ship leaves its docking bay accessible after 300 cycles?" "The one that was expecting to be found," Zuri suggested, her scientific. The holographic message, curiosity overriding any sense of caution. As the shuttle glided into the alien docking bay, the enormity of their discovery became even more apparent. The bay was filled with strange machinery, and what appeared to be smaller craft, all covered in the same peculiar markings as the exterior hull. And everywhere there was that sense of hard, aggressive design, so different from the flowing aesthetics of Havian technology. "Atmosphere readings?" Norala asked as the shuttle touched down. "Surprisingly stable," replied Jazia, checking her instruments. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix, similar to many habitable worlds. Trace contaminants, but nothing immediately dangerous. Temperature is cold, but within tolerable ranges. Maintain environmental suits regardless," Norala ordered. "We don't know what kind of microbes might be present." The team disembarked from the shuttle, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous docking bay. The artificial gravity was still functioning, which was another surprise. Whatever power source this ship used, it was remarkably durable. "Zuri, what can you tell us about these markings?" Norala asked, gesturing to the strange symbols emblazoned on the hull of one of the smaller craft. The science officer ran her scanner over the symbols, her brow furrowed in concentration. "They appear to be some form of written language, but it doesn't match anything in our linguistic database. I'm recording everything for later analysis." "Look at this," called Trolike from where he was examining a control panel. "There's still power running through these systems after 300 cycles. The energy efficiency it's beyond anything we have." Norala nodded, taking it all in. This expedition had just gone from routine to potentially revolutionary. If they could understand even a fraction of this technology, it could advance Jevorian science by decades, perhaps centuries. "Let's proceed deeper into the ship," she decided. "Standard search pattern. Stay in communication range and report anything unusual immediately." As they moved through the alien vessel, the sense of unease grew stronger. The corridors were dimly lit by emergency lighting that had somehow continued to function for 3 centuries. The design aesthetic remained consistently angular and utilitarian, with none of the decorative elements typical of Jevorian ships. And everywhere there were those strange symbols. Presumably, the written language of whatever species had built this technological marvel. Off the size of these corridors, Bront observed, the beings who built this ship must have been roughly our size, bipedal, based on the design of these access points. Similar environmental requirements too, added Jazia. The atmosphere, the gravity. They could have evolved on a world not unlike our own. They passed through what appeared to be living quarters, Spartan, functional spaces with few personal touches. But then, storage areas filled with containers whose contents remained a mystery. Then they reached what was clearly the ship's command center. By the 7 moons, whispered Zuri as they entered the bridge. It was an impressive space, dominated by a large central platform surrounded by various stations, all facing toward what must have been the main view screen. The technology was both familiar in its finding the cryo-sleep chambers, general purpose, and utterly alien in its execution. "Can you access any of the systems?" Norala asked Troll, who was already examining what appeared to be the main control console. "I'm trying." "Captain, there's definitely power, but the interface is completely foreign. I might be able to—" "Wait, what's this?" A sudden humming filled the bridge, and one of the consoles lit up with a series of rapidly changing symbols. "What did you do?" Bront demanded, raising his pulse rifle instinctively. "Nothing," Tree protested. "I barely touched it. The system must have some kind of motion or presence detection." The humming grew louder, and then, to everyone's shock, a holographic image flickered to life in the centre of the bridge. It was a bipedal figure, just as Bront had predicted, but the details of its appearance sent a chill through Norala's exoskeleton. The being was tall and slender, with only 2 eyes and a disturbing lack of proper appendages, just 2 arms ending in what appeared to be primitive manipulators. Its skin was a pale colour, and atop its head was a growth of what looked like thin fibrous material. But most unsettling of all was its face, flat, with exposed dentition and no protective mandibles or sensory antenna. And then, most shocking of all, it began to speak. "This is Captain Alexandra Mercer of the Earth Alliance warship Thunder of Dawn. If you are receiving this message, our mission has failed, and humanity's last hope rests with you, whoever you are." The alien crew stood frozen in place as the holographic figure of Captain Alexandra Mercer continued her message, her voice echoing through the abandoned bridge of the Thunder of Dawn. "The year is 2487 by Earth's calendar. Our mission was to escape the harvest, to preserve what remains of our species and our knowledge. We failed. They found us, just as they found Earth. I have initiated the ship's hibernation protocol and hidden us in this remote sector. The crew has entered cryosleep, but our power systems were damaged in the last attack. By the time anyone finds this message, I suspect most, if not all, of us will be beyond saving." The hologram flickered, the human captain's face betraying exhaustion and despair, despite the degraded quality of the projection. "Nonetheless, I am leaving this record and the contents of our database accessible to whoever finds us. The harvesters cannot be allowed to continue. They have already consumed 3 star systems that we know of, converting all matter, planets, moons, even stars, into their bizarre machinery. Earth fell 2 decades ago. Our colonies followed, one by one. Captain Norala's antenna twitched nervously. She exchanged alarmed glances with her security chief, Bront, whose grip on his pulse rifle had tightened considerably. "What in the void is she talking about?" Bront whispered. "Quiet," Norala hissed, focusing intently on the human's message. The holographic captain continued, her voice growing stronger with resolve. "If you are an advanced species capable of interstellar travel, then you are already in danger. The harvesters don't communicate, they don't negotiate, they simply take. But we have discovered something. In our desperate final battles, we found a weakness in their quantum communication network. The details are in our main database, along with the schematics for our prototype disruption device. The human's eyes seemed to look directly at them, an eerie effect that sent shivers down Norala's spine. We never got the chance to deploy it properly. Perhaps you will succeed where we failed. The command codes for this vessel are now unrestricted. Take what you need. And if any of my crew has survived, please show them mercy. This is Captain Alexandra Mercer, last commanding officer of the Thunder of Dawn. Good luck to you all. The hologram flickered once more and then dissolved into nothingness, leaving the alien exploration team in stunned silence. Zuri was the first to speak, her scientific curiosity overriding her shock. Captain, if even half of what this human said is true, we need to alert the Confederacy immediately, a species that consumes entire star systems. Try, muttered his appendages, trembling slightly as they hovered over the alien. The harvester threat revealed console. It sounds impossible. So does finding a fully intact vessel that's been drifting for 3 centuries, Norala countered. She stepped forward, her decision made. Try, see if you can access their database. Zuri, help him. Bront, Vex, I want a full security sweep of this vessel, with particular attention to any areas that might house these cryo-sleep chambers. And if we find surviving humans? Asked Jazia, the medical officer. The captain mentioned mercy. We will cross that stellar bridge when we reach it, Norala replied. For now, I need to know if this threat is real or the delusion of a desperate captain from a dying species. As the team dispersed, to their assigned tasks, Norala remained on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the spot where the human hologram had stood. The implications were staggering. If this harvester threat was real, then the Jevorian Confederacy, indeed all spacefaring civilizations, could be in imminent danger. And yet a small cynical part of her mind wondered if this was some elaborate trap or hoax. After all, what were the chances that they would stumble upon this vessel, lost for centuries, just when its warning might still be relevant? Her musings were interrupted by Bront's urgent voice over the comm system. Captain, you need to see this. Deck 3, Section 7. We have found the cryo chambers. The cryo-sleep facility was vast, stretching the entire length of Deck 3. Hundreds of sleek metallic pods lined the walls and filled the center of the room in neat rows. Each pod contained a human, suspended in some sort of clear preservative fluid, their bodies showing varying degrees of degradation. Life signs? Norala asked Jazia, who was already scanning the nearest pod with her medical instruments. Incredibly, yes, the medic replied, her voice hushed with awe. Extremely faint, but present in approximately 28% of the pods. The others? She trailed off, but her meaning was clear. The others were simply preserved corpses. Can they be revived? Jazia's primary eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of deep uncertainty. I have no idea, Captain. This technology is completely foreign to me. The preservation technique is remarkably advanced, but the power systems are failing. That's why so many have expired. The remaining functional pods are drawing the last reserves of the ship's energy. Norala approached one of the pods, studying the human within. This specimen appeared female, with long strands of dark fibrous growth. Hair, she recalled from xenobiology texts, flowing around her pale face. Despite the alien appearance, there was something undeniably sentient about the being, something that sparked a sense of connection. Captain! Treek's excited voice came through the comm system. We have accessed their database. There's so much information. Scientific data, historical records, cultural archives, and yes, detailed information about these harvesters. You need to see this. On my way, Norala replied. Bront, Vex, secure this area. Jazia, continue your analysis of the cryopods. I want to know if revival is possible and what it would take. Back on the bridge, Treek had managed to project some of the human database onto the main view screen. Images flashed by. Beautiful blue-green worlds that must have been Earth and its colonies. Massive cities with soaring towers. And then devastation on an unimaginable scale. The harvesters arrived in the Sol system, that's their home system, in 2463, Zuri explained, scrolling through the information. At first, the humans thought they were simply massive spacefaring vessels. Attempts at communication failed. Then the harvesters began their work. The screen showed a massive geometric structure, utterly alien even to Norala's eyes, positioning itself near a small rocky planet. They start with the smallest celestial bodies, Treek continued, his voice grim. Asteroids, moons, then planets. They break them down at the molecular level and convert the raw materials into more of themselves. Within months, they had consumed Mars, one of Earth's neighbouring planets, and constructed a massive device in its orbit. The images shifted to show a terrifying transformation as the red planet was systematically disassembled, replaced by an expanding web of mechanical structures. The humans fought back, Zuri added. They had impressive technology, despite being relatively new to interstellar travel. But the harvesters simply absorbed whatever was thrown at them, adapted, and continued their consumption. And this weakness they discovered? Norala asked, forcing herself to focus on the potential solution rather than the horrifying threat. Treek brought up a new set of schematics. It's ingenious, actually. The harvesters operate as a collective, communicating through quantum entanglement. The humans designed a device that could disrupt this network, essentially severing the connection between individual harvester units. And without their collective intelligence, the units become disorganized, vulnerable. But they never got to deploy it properly, Norala finished, recalling the human captain's words. Not at full scale, no, Zuri confirmed. They managed some successful tests against smaller harvester units, but they needed to target the main control node, which they never located. And the prototype? Is it on this ship? Treek nodded enthusiastically. According to the database, yes. Engineering section, Deck 5. Norala's mind raced. The implications were staggering. If the harvesters were real, if they were still out there, consuming worlds, then this information, this weapon, could be the salvation not just of the Jevorian Confederacy, but of all sentient life. Captain, Brunt's voice interrupted her thoughts, the security chief's tone urgent. We have a situation in the cryo chamber. One of the pods is initiating some kind of revival sequence on its own. By the time Norala reached the cryo chamber, a small crowd had gathered around one of the pods. The transparent cover had retracted, and the preservation fluid was rapidly draining away. Inside, a human male, judging by the physical characteristics, was beginning to show signs of movement, slight twitches of fingers, rapid eye movement beneath closed lids. What happened? Norala demanded. Nothing we did, Jazia insisted. The pod system suddenly activated. It's as if it was programmed to initiate revival under certain conditions. Could our presence have triggered it? Norala wondered aloud. Possibly, Zuri suggested, or perhaps it's linked to the ship's computer system, which we accessed, a failsafe of some kind. Whatever the cause, the process was well underway. The humans' vital signs were strengthening by the minute, displayed on a monitor attached to the pod in those same strange symbols they'd seen throughout the ship. Jazia, stand by with medical support, Norala ordered. Everyone else maintain distance. We don't know how this being will react to our appearance. They didn't have long to wait. Within minutes, the human's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises of a striking blue colour. There was a moment of confusion as the being stared at the ceiling, then panic as awareness returned. The human bolted upright, gasping and coughing, expelling the last of the preservation fluid from its lungs. Then it saw them. The reaction was not what Norala had expected. Instead of fear or aggression, The human's expression registered shock, then relief. It spoke, its voice from centuries of disuse, in the same language they had heard from the holographic captain. "You are not harvesters," it managed to say. "Thank God you found us." Zuri stepped forward cautiously, activating the universal translator they had calibrated based on the ship's database. "We are representatives of the Jevorian Confederacy. We discovered your vessel drifting in space. Do you understand me?" The human nodded, still struggling to regulate his breathing. "Universal translator? Good. We hoped someone would find us. But—" He paused. "Eventually, you are the first of your kind we have encountered," Norala said, maintaining a respectful distance. "Your captain's message mentioned a grave threat, the harvesters." The human's face darkened. "Then they haven't reached you yet. That's good. There's still time." He attempted to stand, wobbled, and was steadied by Jazia, whose medical instincts overrode any xenophobic caution. "My name is Marcus Reeves, Chief Science Officer of the Thunder of Dawn," the human continued. "How many of us survived?" Norala exchanged glances with her crew before answering. "Our medical officer estimates approximately 140 of your cryopods still contain living occupants." "The rest?" Marcus closed his eyes briefly, absorbing the loss. "Out of 500. Better than I feared. Worse than I hoped. How long?" "Based on your captain's message, approximately 300 of our cycles," Zuri replied, "which would translate to about 320 Earth years if our calculations are correct." The human seemed to stagger under the weight of this information. 3 centuries, he whispered. "Everyone we knew, everything we left behind. It's all gone." "Perhaps not," Norala said, making a decision. "Your captain's message mentioned a weakness you discovered in the Harvester network and a prototype weapon. We have confirmed its existence in your database, but not its location on the ship." Marcus's expression shifted, determination replacing despair. "The quantum disruption array. Yes, it's here. We were going to use it to buy Earth more time, but they found us before we could return. Captain Mercer made the call to hide instead, to preserve the technology and hope someone else could use it." "Someone like us," Norala finished. The human nodded. "I can take you to it, but first we need to revive key personnel. Dr. Eliza Takashi, our medical director, she can help stabilize the remaining cryopods, and Commander Victor Santos, our weapons specialist. He was instrumental in designing the QDA." "The power systems on this vessel are failing," Bront pointed out, ever the pragmatist. "If we revive too many, we might lose the rest." Marcus's gaze hardened. "Then we will have to work quickly. Your ship, does it have enough capacity to evacuate the survivors?" Norala calculated rapidly. "Not all at once. We would need to make multiple trips or call for additional vessels." "Then call them," the human urged. "Please. We might be the last of our kind. But more importantly, we have information that could save countless other species. The harvesters don't stop. They won't stop. They are probably still out there, consuming worlds as we speak." Norala made her decision. "Plex," she spoke into her communicator, "send an emergency transmission to Central Command, Priority Alpha. Include a summary of our findings and request immediate reinforcement with evacuation capacity." The quantum disruption array, forming the alliance. She continued, addressing Marcus, "Can it be moved to our vessel?" The human shook his head. "Not easily. It's integrated into the ship's power systems. But we could potentially adapt it, given time and resources." "Then we will bring the resources to you," Norala declared. "Trolike, assess what would be required to stabilize this vessel's power systems, at least temporarily. Zuri, continue analyzing their database with particular attention to the harvester threat and any information on their current locations or movements." She turned back to the human, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite interpret. We will help you, Marcus Reeves. The Jevorian Confederacy does not abandon those in need, especially when faced with a common enemy. For the first time, the human smiled, a strange expression that exposed those unsettling teeth, but somehow conveyed genuine gratitude. Thank you, Captain Thrick, Captain Norala Thrick, Jevorian survey vessel, Boundless Curiosity. Well, Captain Thrick, it seems curiosity has led you to humanity's last hope, and perhaps to the salvation of your own species as well. 3 days later, the thunder of dawn hummed with renewed activity. Jevorian technicians worked alongside revived human specialists, stabilizing critical systems and preparing the remaining cryopods for transfer to the Jevorian relief vessels that had begun to arrive. On the bridge, Norala stood with Marcus and the newly revived Commander Santos, studying the schematics of the quantum disruption array. The principle is sound, Triek was saying, his appendages gesturing excitedly. With Jevorian quantum computing capabilities, we could enhance the effective range significantly. Instead of targeting individual harvester units, we could potentially disrupt entire clusters simultaneously. The real challenge, Santos added, has always been locating the control node. Without that, we are just treating symptoms, not curing the disease. Our long-range scout vessels might help with that, Norala suggested. They have advanced stealth capabilities that your ships lacked. And what happens when we find it? Marcus asked the question they'd all been avoiding. The harvesters nearly wiped out humanity, a species that was already spread across multiple star systems. What chance does any one civilization have against them? Norala's mandibles clicked together in the Jevorian equivalent of a resolute smile. That's just it, Marcus. Not one civilization. Any. The Jevorian Confederacy includes 27 spacefaring species across 42 star systems, and we have allies beyond our borders. Together, armed with your disruption technology, we stand a fighting chance. A fighting chance, echoed Dr. Takashi, who had just entered the bridge. That's more than we had when we fled Earth. Silence fell as they all contemplated what lay ahead. The harvesters were still out there somewhere, consuming and expanding. But now, for the first time in centuries, there was hope. You know, Marcus said finally, there's an old human saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I never really understood it, until now. We have a similar proverb, Norala replied, though in our language it's closer to, those who face the storm together shelter each other. Santos laughed, a sound that had become less startling to Jevorian ears over the past days. I like that. It's fitting. Suddenly, the ship's communication system crackled to life. Captain Thrick, came the voice of Officer Plex from the Boundless Curiosity. Central Command has responded to our transmission. The Supreme Council has requested a meeting, with you, and with the human representatives. Norala looked toward the humans. This is highly unusual, she said. The Supreme Council almost never communicates directly with ship captains, especially not with members of an unfamiliar species. Should we take that as a good sign or a bad one? Dr. Takashi asked, sounding drained. It indicates they view the harvester threat with the utmost seriousness, Norala answered, extremely seriously. As they made their way back to the Boundless Curiosity for the call, Norala couldn't help but think about the strange journey that had brought them to this point. What began as a monotonous survey mission had evolved into what could be the most critical first contact in Jevorian history, and perhaps the key to saving countless worlds. The humans gathered the few belongings they had managed to recover after their long stasis. They moved with the quiet hope of people who had lost everything, yet somehow been given a second chance. Are you ready? Norala asked Marcus, who had naturally stepped into the role of leading the human survivors. He nodded, casting one final look around the bridge of the Thunder of Dawn, the ship that had borne humanity's final hope through 3 centuries of silent voyage. Ready, he said. Let's move. reintroducing humanity to the galaxy. As they walked toward the shuttle bay once more, Marcus said softly, "The name of your ship, Boundless Curiosity. It fits you and your people well. In the end, that's what saved us. Not our weapons, not our technology. It was the simple fact that upon detecting an ancient distress call, you chose to investigate." Norala's antenna gave a small twitch of embarrassment. "Truthfully, we were mostly just bored." Marcus chuckled. "Sometimes, Captain Thrick, salvation comes in the form of a curious alien ship arriving at just the right moment." Together, they stepped onto the shuttle that would return them to the Boundless Curiosity, and from there into an uncertain future, one shaped by the unlikely alliance between humans and Jevorians in the face of the cosmic terror known as the Harvesters. Behind them, the thunder of dawn stirred back to life, a tribute to human resilience and a symbol of hope in the face of what lay ahead. The very vessel that once triggered alien panic had now become a potential savior to them all. And far out in the endless void, the Harvesters continued their relentless devouring, unaware that their would-be victims had united, and perhaps finally discovered a way to resist.